Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge, or in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people,
which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you, and we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara, life coach, wife, and mom to 4 incredible and unique children. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and confidence that once felt so lacking. I created the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves feeling trapped and with no one who really understands. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle your ability to dream. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you are a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello and welcome to the Special Needs Mom podcast. What's funny is I almost just slipped up and said, welcome to the Special Needs Mom community, which is kind of a great slip up, actually. It just tells me that the community part of this for me is so important. And if you don't feel like you yet have a community, that you just kind of listen and you're maybe a bystander to this podcast, jump on in. There's a couple ways to get involved. The first one is a totally free option. It is a podcast community via Facebook. And it's a group of listeners like you where we just get to commingle. We get to talk. We get to interact. You know, I get to talk to you on this podcast, but I would love to hear from you as well. That's a good way. And then I'm feeling extra high on life today because we had a new cohort of the flagship program, Pathway to Peace, start today. And it's for a specific diagnosis community. So it's a foundation that supports all of the people that have that particular diagnosis. And how amazing is it that these people that already share the diagnosis get to also share the community and being on the pathway together. I'm so excited. It was amazing. So clearly that one will not be for you if you're not part of that community. However, Pathway to Peace is open right now. And so I want you to consider if you're heading into summer and thinking, oh, Lordy, here we go. It's going to be a wild ride. Let's just not have you do it alone. Okay. So reach out via the show notes. We can talk about it, see what your options are. And in any capacity, I hope that you take a step towards supporting yourself, developing community. All right. Well, let's transition over to talking a little bit about today's episode. Today's episode is a very, very simple concept, and I want it to stay very simple because that's kind of the whole purpose. And it's really simplistically saying, how can we let this be easy? And I know that your brain might be like, what are you talking about? Like, this is hard. This is complicated. And you might be stuck there, and that's totally fine. We don't have to make everything easy. That's not the point here. We're just looking at how we can acknowledge how overwhelmed and how stressed we are and how many things are on our plates as moms as we navigate all that we do for the children that we have and all of their other commitments. And this is designed to give us an access point to relieving a little bit of that. This kind of was inspired from a recent conversation in a coaching call with one of my clients. And we were talking about something that she was committed to and she had kind of been wanting to do for a long time, but she's been having a hard time with that next step, with actually taking it. And so she's been doing a lot of thinking about it, but there hasn't been any traction or action. I'm leaving it vague on purpose on the details of what she's working on because the details don't matter. Focus on the concept. And so, we were exploring it a little bit with her. And what we realized is that she was trying to go from novice or beginner, if you will, to expert, all in one swoop. And so naturally, she was feeling a little intimidated. She was feeling a little like, why would I do that? So she bailed. She just didn't do anything at all, which is very, 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 very common. We all do this. Our brains try to protect ourselves from anything that is unfamiliar, uncertain, uncomfortable. Why? Because it's associating those things with not being safe. It's like, if I can't accurately predict what's going to happen when you try this thing, we're just not going to do it at all. As you can see, our brain cares about safety more than anything else. So you can do the math here. No safety, no do. That's what your brain says. And so what we want to do on purpose is actually create a little bit of safety. And in this case, we're going to create safety through ease. And that's one way of looking at it. In another way, kind of outside of the unfamiliar and perhaps unsafe, is also just recognizing we just get in these habits. We get in ruts. We get committed to things. We sign up for classes. We sign up for bringing things to the potluck, and we don't look back. And we don't recognize that the world in which we're living in is one that we've partially created. Now, I don't want to disacknowledge that a lot of the world that you live in is not intentional or volitional, as in that you chose to have it. So I want to be really, really clear that what we're talking about here is all those things that are optional, that you do choose into, that you sign up for, and that you may or may not question at all. So we're going to talk about actually creating some ease. The way we're going to do this is through the use of several questions. And you're going to be like, Kara, that's too easy. And I'm going to say, exactly. So these are questions that I want you to start prompting yourself with this week. Perhaps you write one or several of them on a Post-it note that you can kind of refer back to. So the questions are, how can I let this be easy? Another variation is, what would make this easier? Another one that goes a little bit deeper is, what am I holding on to that is not letting this be easy? So we could look at any different topic and we can kind of work through those. And we're not going to do that now because I actually, by intention, want this episode to be very, very easy. I'm actually implementing this exact concept in the way that I'm creating this podcast episode. Why? Because there's a lot on my plate too. And I've been needing to produce a podcast episode. And this thought came to me when I was having this session about letting it be easy. And then bingo, I was like, that's what we're going to talk about on the podcast. And we're going to let it be easy. So I'm doing the same exact thing in this podcast episode while I encourage you to try this yourself. How meta is that? So other things to kind of consider with this is asking yourself the question, how can I let this be 1% easier? We don't need to go for 100%. I actually want you to aim for 1, maybe 5 if you're going to get real crazy. Remember earlier how I was talking about the client that was trying to go from basically nothing to all. And so therefore, that was her stumbling block. That was kind of where she got stuck. So my assertion is that it happens to a lot of us a lot of the time. So we're going to create something that is just a little bit easier. That's going to go to 1% or maybe 5%, like I mentioned. All right. So here is how we're going to look at this. If you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, and my guess is that you are. Why? Because we're all in this sprint to the end of the school year. And either we're ending this year and going into summer, which we talked about that actually in last week's episode. There's a lot of things that come up for us as moms of special needs children as it comes to summer and all that changes for us, all that changes for them. So my guess is that the overwhelm and the stress is starting to tick up. Why do I know this? Because I'm experiencing the same thing. So you're going to do an exercise. And when I say exercise, I want you to consider that you can do this to a varying capacity. And what I mean by that is you can let this be very, very, very easy too. So I'm going to explain a couple different ways of doing it. There's no wrong way. And you can choose what feels easiest to you. Okay, so the cue is when you feel stressed or overwhelmed or just a little bit anxious, like there's a lot going on and you feel like you have to do it all. You're going to stop, drop, and download. There's a couple ways. The first one is to just write down all the things. When I say download, I mean like literally get all the things out of your brain onto paper, look at them. And from here, you can choose 1 or 2, maybe 3, and ask yourself those questions. How can I let this be easy? What would make this easier? And really allow yourself to push past the point in which your brain already has the answer of you can't, you have to do it, you committed. Whatever the default answer is, sit with it just long enough to allow yourself to kind of push through that little barrier and get on the other side of being like, you know what? I can take my name off of the spreadsheet where I signed up to bring something, or I can call somebody and ask them to help me. There's a lot of different options that I think we just don't entertain. Okay, clearly we can't do this with the things like our children's medications, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have to find other areas where we can lighten the load. And so I think a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I have to do, which I'm going to say is most of the time very true for moms like us. But there's the whole other part of our lives that I think that are optional is where I want us to kind of look toward to lighten our load. Okay, so you're going to do the download. You're going to look at the 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things, and you're going to ask yourself those questions. And now an even easier version of this is when you're in the moment, when you're feeling stressed, is to identify one thing that is causing you stress, one thing that you are worried about perhaps, and ask yourself the question, how can I let this be easy? The spirit with this is letting it kind of be fun. Entertain yourself with funny ideas that you come up with of what might make it easy. And it might be a very, very quick solution, or it might be a longer solution. Like, for example, gosh, man, these mealtime struggles that my husband and I have, like, we've come a long way, but the idea of getting meals on the table in like a somewhat not chaotic way still evades us. I recently signed up for a grocery delivery situation. And actually, I'm like, ooh, if this is as good as I think it's going to be, I'm in the first week of it. I'm like, I'm going to bring it to all y'all and share it with you. So far, so good. It's taking the load off of actually having to cook, but also having healthy meals. My kids don't know if they're fans yet. However, my husband and I are. And we're the one that buy the food. So we get to choose. So it could be something where it's like a longer term solution where like, yes, it takes a little bit of a time investment. Yes, a little bit of a money investment to make a change like that. But the idea is what we're looking at is making our evenings easier. And for us, that's worth a lot of money. All right. So I'm going to set it down there. I'm going to let it be easy and not go into more and more detail because, man, I like to talk about this stuff. And I'm going to let it be easy with all of you. All right. We will see you on the next episode. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.